legacy. But have you ever considered that clarity might be the greatest gift you can leave your loved ones? By creating an estate plan that specifies how you want your assets and situation handled, you can provide exactly that. Whether you're preparing a will, establishing a trust, planning for end-of-life expenses, or offering a living legacy, estate plans show how much you care. Call or click to RSVP today for our monthly workshops. Click.
Click, click. There's Bruce.
That's right.
Here we
Did
are.
I say click or cluck?
I don't know what you said, but we're back on the air. Here we are Wednesday. We had quite the lineup this week. We had Roy on here Monday doing a good show.
Yeah. I tell you what, we need to get the word out. I mean, Roy is so knowledgeable about the Social Security disability process. I have just been a little bit amazed. I didn't really know what to expect right out of the gate. We basically acquired that company in February, and it's like, I've been looking into trying to figure that department out, and then the circumstances. Roy came to one of our workshops, him and his wife, and they ended up being clients, and
and frankly liked the process of what you did and what we did for them. And he's like, yeah, that'd be a great team to be a part of.
And then he shared his story with me about his owner tragically died, and he was he didn't know what to do, and kind of not which direction. And it's blessings is an understatement.
Yeah.
Because of what he brings to our table.
Yeah.
Even in our meetings, people that need help with their questions about Social Security or Medicaid
even. Planning. Yeah, he's very knowledgeable.
So. Yep, I would encourage people to tune that show in and get the word out.
And I think the thing is, I think people look at that show and go, oh, disability, I don't have any interest in that, I don't need to know about that. But I learn things every time I talk to the guy. And the show has got, I think if people watch that show, and you can go back and watch it on K-ROG YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitter, whatever,
right.
You're going to go, I had never really thought about that.
Yeah.
You've probably been eligible for disability at some point in your life and just didn't know it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just didn't know it. And you may have been on disability for a short time and then off of it, but and there's some interesting language about that too that Roy and I were discussing on Monday. It was a fun show. You should go back and watch what we did on Monday.
I think so.
But today we're going to talk about common inheritance mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
We are. I mean, over the last few years doing these workshops, doing all these variety of estate plans, because not everybody's the same. And, and I tell folks when I'm interviewing them, we do kind of an a la carte, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not everybody needs the same plan. It's not a cookie cutter type deal.
No, but what we do have that I'm really proud of is we've got a solid base that we've already got put together. But we have the flexibility to customize that to make it fit for unique situations. So it's kind of like having the best of both worlds.
That's right.
Yep, because we can be fast, efficient, affordable with it, but still get to the customization that people frankly need, as opposed to those robo websites that you click it in and a robot drafts your document and kicks it out. You may or may not have had the opportunity, because we discover a lot of things talking with people.
Yep.
And it's almost sometimes an offhand comment, but it's something that I'll pick up on or Janine will pick up on and we'll go, oh, well now, wait a minute. What do you really want then? And they'll tell us, like, oh, and see, that's something that a computer wouldn't have picked up on.
That's right.
So it's really important to sit down with a person. But boy, that was a tangent. But
and there's a lot of misinformation that I'm discovering when I'm doing the fact-finding process. People have their own ideas about what they need.
Yeah.
Because of what the internet told them,
yes,
or their friend, or their neighbor, or whoever.
I've got something in mind, but I want to ask you this question. What's one of the most common misunderstandings that you run across with people when you start talking to them about estate planning, particularly trust-based estate planning?
Oh, I've got everything protected. I've already got my will done. I'm not going to probate. I've got my will done.
That's a big one.
It's in my freezer, and my pastor signed it.
Yep.
So it's legit.
Yep.
Right? I run into that almost every day.
So wills avoid probate is the big misconception, because they don't, that you run into. I'll tell you what I run into, and this is a little more nuanced, but people come in and they think that their trust document has to list everything that it owns. Right. And so they think that, well, every time I buy a car, I've got to change my trust. And that's not true.
No,
that's simply not true. That's not the way that works.
Yeah.
Your trust, when we draft it, it's just a container. Yeah. And it just says, hey, I'm here, whatever I own, this is how I want it managed. And then we use all of those other things that we do in our everyday life to say who owns stuff, deeds, titles, all of that stuff.
I'm always amused when they actually set another appointment, come back in, because sometimes we're handling some of their financial stuff, and they go, just want to run something by you. I just want to make sure, that Will's got this right.
Oh, yeah?
And they're asking me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, so you're going to ask me a legal question.
Yeah.
And they rattle off something, and I go, whatever Will said, that's the way it is.
Yeah, sometimes those fervently and faithfully held misconceptions are hard to disavow people of. It's like, no, your trust is not going to talk about the jewelry you own, right. No, it can, and there are certain limited circumstances where it's appropriate.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's a very simple process. And so I think that's one of the reasons people put off estate plan. Like, that'll be so much work to list all of my stuff and figure out everything I own. You don't have to do that. It's a lot easier than that.
There was a guy on the internet, had a 15-minute estate planning workshop.
Really? 15 minutes.
Pretty quick.
That's pretty quick. I'm a fast talker.
I needed to back up a couple of times and listen.
I'm a fast talker, and I jump from point to point to point. And my wife always tells me, like, you're skipping all the details. I'm like, the details aren't important. We're hitting the topics here. And I still will talk, an hour?
Oh, yeah.
It only feels like 15 minutes.
And that's basically what this guy was doing on the internet. Yeah. It was like, don't overcomplicate the issue. And I think people tend to want to overcomplicate it.
Sure.
People like to talk about their stuff.
Absolutely. And frankly, lawyers, I believe, have intentionally created the perception that estate planning is complicated and difficult in order to justify these $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 fees that they're out there charging for trust-based plans.
Yeah, it's justification.
It's justification, and frankly, it's not that hard. We don't charge anywhere near that much money for our trusts because we keep them simple. We just get the people what they need, but they're complete and they do everything they want.
Well, they're comprehensive. I mean, that's, we don't do cheap work. We do inexpensive planning that's done correctly.
That's absolutely right. So let's talk about these mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to talk about today is just, a few things. I'm going to have to take these glasses off so I can read. Right, I can't see the screen from here and I don't want to do this.
I should have made it.
It's not there.
That's not there. It's only.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it.
It just looks like it's the magic of television.
It looks like it's there, but to hear
Let's see
it's
if I
not
put
there.
my hand up there. See how my hand disappears.
Oh, so I could.
Yeah. That's
really amazing. I'm shocked. Right. I mean, one thing that I see when people inherit, and this is, I'm talking to, adult children out
beneficiaries.
Here. Kind of pay attention because there's lots of changes in legislation that we have dodged some bullets in the last year and a half with this, should we call him, genius that we've got running the country or supposedly in charge. So I think, when you inherit, all of a sudden, I've seen it, a lot of people are appreciative. A lot of people are surprised.
Yeah.
They didn't realize their parent, their uncle, whoever left them something, had what they had. But then again, a lot of times, they're like sitting there at the funeral with a handout, like, okay, are we done yet? Let's get to the point. Right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens, those types of people, they do a lot of careless spending. Those people have what I call sudden money syndrome.
Yeah, that happens to lottery winners, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
How they go bankrupt?
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, and we have 4 that are clients, and, the thing that's, I was impressed with those 4 are they were guided or somebody told them, don't be stupid. Mm-hmm. go talk to somebody, and they did. And we just did a normal process of going through, just like we do on our estate planning. We go through and say, what are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? And, there's one of those that, and I won't get into the details too far, but one of them was on Medicare already,
right, yeah.
Or Medicaid already. And so it was a little bit more difficult because of Medicaid recovery.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, we had to navigate that. Well, there's other folks that go, okay, here's what I've got. I don't want to change my lifestyle. I don't want to inherit every person on my block as my best friend now, right?
Right.
And, I don't want to get all these invitations for Christmas parties just because all of a sudden everybody knows I won the lottery.
Yeah.
And, that happens. And so a lot of times this sudden money syndrome, people go out and spend what they normally would not.
Never spend.
Now, not the amount. Maybe, the thought process. The syndrome is, knowing I can, and it's flip it because, I've got all this money. Well, you didn't earn it. You didn't work for it. You either got lucky or you were blessed with somebody else's hard work. Well, sudden money syndrome is you step outside of your own comfort zone and you start doing things that are otherwise you would have defined as ignorant
right
prior to that.
Yep.
And just because you got money doesn't mean that you all of a sudden buy everybody's drink at the bar or walk into a restaurant and buy everybody's lunch.
Yep.
I mean, admirable, but you won't have money long because you're not earning any.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, you're not replacing it.
And besides the fact that we got taxes, insurance, and additional expenses to think about, so don't go out and go buy a brand new F-150 that's $106,000, because when you go to get it licensed, you're going to have to save back a little money to get the sales tax paid.
You're right about that.
And the insurance is going to be higher, and I could go on and on and on. So, sudden money syndrome is just people spending money without thinking through it. Now, losing other income because you just inherited a big bucket of cash, whether it's disability, taxation on your disability can be affected. I mean, provisional income thresholds, yada, yada, yada. I want to bore you with all that stuff, but don't quit your day job just because you won some money. If you put a little thought into it, maybe come to one of our workshops, see how you can do some planning to really protect what you've been blessed with, then you can move on. Now, if you have a special needs child, which, you know what, you got to think through that because they can't inherit big buckets of cash without it affecting possibly their SSI, their Medicaid, whatever. And so planning ahead of time, you can correct and or at least give a direction for where the funds are going to go to benefit that adult child moving forward into the future.
Sure.
Now, IRA accounts, one thing about IRA accounts that has changed in the last couple of years is the inheritance of those.
Right.
There are no more inherited IRAs.
Right.
Normally, you could inherit mom or dad's IRA, stretch it out for, your lifetime with a required distribution. That way you're mitigating taxes along the way. Well, they did away with that because the IRS says basically the government, they're spreading those taxes out too far. Let's shorten that up so now we can get our more money quicker, right?
Right.
So they shortened that to 10 years. So if you leave $1 million to your kids in an IRA, you just created a huge tax problem.
Right.
Because they're going to have to either pay me now or pay me more later.
Right.
Because the tax laws are changing in 2026. That's the bottom line. If you're in a circumstance like that, you definitely need to come to our workshops. You definitely need to talk to us. Now, property. When you inherit property, I had a gentleman in the other day. Funny to me, probably not funny to him. He inherited this 1,200-acre farm.
Nice.
Yeah, except Nobody told him he had to pay property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
So, how long ago did you inherit that, Butch? It was 4 or 5 years ago, and somebody got on my case, started sending me all this stuff, and they're threatening.
Did he still?
They're going to take my farm.
I was going to say, does he still own it? Because
he does. He went and borrowed money.
Yeah, haha.
That was interesting. Oh, I had to go to the bank, borrow money to pay my taxes. Okay, well, what are you doing with 1,200 acres of land? Are you not making money off of it?
That you're not making money on.
Are you running hay, cattle, chickens? Raising deer? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are we doing with it?
Right? And he didn't pay his taxes and darn near lost it.
Yeah.
Somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, buddy, you got to pay taxes
at the tax sale,
and you probably need to get some insurance. You need a little liability coverage in case somebody gets hurt on that property."
Yep.
And so that's was interesting to me that he hadn't really thought about. I inherited it. I thought it was mine. You know what's amazing in the United States?
You don't own your land.
No, we lease it.
We
lease it from the federal government. It's a pretty good deal, but that's what it is. Now, Build Back Better was about to eliminate the cost basis of inherited property, and it didn't. Somebody blocked it by one vote, and that's okay. The Lord does provide.
I don't think people realize what a seismic shift that would be.
Oh, that would
family farms will get lost.
Oh, immediately.
It's just, immediately lost.
Yeah, it's
huge
even
wealth
scary. I don't even know. I start stuttering when I think about it.
It's scary how close that came.
The cost basis, when you inherit property from your mom and dad, you get a stepped up basis in that property. So everybody needs to understand that the basis in the property is the value, the date of their death, second death. So if you're the heir and mom and dad built their house for $32,000 48 years ago, and now it's worth $400,000, and they pass away.
Yep.
Your basis in that property is the value, the date of death. So if you're in that situation and you have an aging or an ailing parent, I would encourage you to just jot down somewhere, if something was to happen to mom or dad, the first thing you need to do, especially if you have a sizable property or a farm, make sure that you establish the cost basis, date of death.
Yep.
Now, as long as you get that done, you're going to protect your ability to maneuver in the future. Now, I hope that makes sense to folks.
It does. And on that topic, that's another big point of error that people make is they will put Johnny Jr.'s name on the farm to make sure he gets it. Well, and they've done two things. They've created an immediate gift tax problems for themselves, and they just robbed Johnny of that stepped-up basis.
That's right. And to avoid that, they would need to file, in the year that transaction was done, they would need to file a gift tax return. Then they could take that and make that part of their lifetime exemption total.
Right.
Now, if you don't do that, you are faced with 40% tax on anything above the maximum gift.
Right. So
I'm dealing with a case right now that we just yesterday discovered that in 2020, they just decided, let's make it easy. Let's just deed our house to our kids. So they did. $400,000 house, 2 kids. They own it. We don't. We're good. We're protected. We don't need to do estate planning. That was their comment. All right. So I said, well, let me look into that. I don't want to tell you misinformation, so you've got plenty of that on your own. Let me get back to you. So I called our CPA. I called another tax person, that good friend of mine, and I said, here's the circumstances. What do you think? He goes, they got a 40% tax on $290,000.
Yep.
I said, okay. So I called another my CPA people, and I asked them, I said, okay, here's the circumstance. They said, well, they got a 40% tax on $290,000. I didn't need to call a third person.
Yeah. Because that was confirming what you and I both believed.
Right. And I had already done my own YouTubing and, sophisticated researching on the internet.
I've researched it. I did my own research.
And so I called her back as she's getting ready to fly to Hong Kong today. And I said, she wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I told her, and she goes, "Oh my goodness!"
I think you owe the federal government $100,000.
And I said, "I tell you what you can do, though. We're going to petition the IRS to accept a gift tax return that was failed to get done in 2020, and we're going to beg for forgiveness, and hopefully they'll allow that.
Yeah.
And if they do, we can make that part of your lifetime gift exemption, and we can avoid the tax."
Excellent.
So I found out the answer, and this is what Will and I tried to do with everybody. We find out the answers. We make sure that we're giving accurate information, and then we're going to hopefully give you a solution. You know, now, how many times have we done that on the estate planning process? They come in with this asinine information that they've got, right?
Yes.
Off the internet because they've researched and self-diagnosed. I'm pretty sure I've got cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly right.
And then we try to correct them, but then we give them a solution.
That's right.
It's one thing to laugh hysterically in their face.
Yes, it is.
Right? We try not to do that.
We save that for behind your back.
Right.
But
And right, we can do that with the door shut. Now, beneficiary deeds, I want to touch on that because we run into this.
Yeah.
The problem that I see with beneficiary deeds that I've learned from you, and you're a good teacher, is there's no contingency planning.
That's one of the problems.
If you have a direct deed going directly to your children, and one of your kids has a drug problem or an addiction problem, maybe is better, what if they're going through a divorce?
Yeah.
Have you ever known your kids not to tell you everything?
It happens.
Well, it does happen when they're younger, but it also happens when they're older,
particularly
because I don't want to burden my mom with all my issues, right?
Yep.
And so what if your kid's going through a divorce and you didn't know about it and a drunk driver took you out and now they own your farm?
Or they may have a major creditor that you didn't know about, facing bankruptcy.
And then all of a sudden they're going to lose part of their inheritance because they immediately own it.
Right.
If we simply just made it go to the trust, then they have time to think.
And some flexibility.
And they have flexibility and they have all that stuff. So I hope that helps. I mean, the key to planning is planning.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I mean, take the time, do yourself a favor. We have workshops coming up here in October. We're going to have them in November, and then we're going to take December off. So I would encourage people. We have maybe 8 more workshops before the end of the year. And it's a great time to get some information. And then when your family comes in for the holidays, you can sit down and have a family meeting.
Yep, it's an excellent time to get up to speed on that, because we give away a lot of free information. And it's all about how to save yourself potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in your estate and for your family. And if you decide to do any work with us, it's a fraction of that, just a small fraction. And
you know why we don't charge?
I know why I charge. I don't know why you don't charge.
Well, why we don't charge for our workshops.
Right.
Right?
Right. We don't. Yep.
Because we've been blessed and we're not hungry.
That's true.
We've been blessed with the ability to understand the knowledge that it takes and communicate that back to people in a way that they can understand it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
Well, it comes down to it.
And so I would encourage you to come. If you know of somebody we can help, send them.
Nobody has ever told me to my face that it's a waste of time.
Oh, no. I always stand in the lobby after you're done, and I'm trying to just greet people and thank them for coming.
Yeah.
Because it is I do appreciate them
they took their time to come and see us. Yeah.
Right? And you know what? I'm amazed. Oh, I wish we'd have got in here 10 years ago.
We do hear that.
I hear that all the time. Yep. Oh, I wished I'd have come sooner.
It's never too soon, but it's often too late.
Sooner is today. Yep, sooner is this week, next week.
So give Bruce a call, 417-882-1800. If you can get your little phone camera on that QR code, that'll take you right where you need to go, and you can figure out how you can come see us and just get some more information and see if we can't help you out. I'll bet we can.
Yeah, yep. I just learned how to use the QR code.
See you next week.
Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and the Resource Center, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet a particular need of an individual situation. The Resource Center, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this podcast shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by the Resource Center, Inc. This podcast is a paid placement.